everyone, and welcome to the Docs Huddle, your gateway to an in-depth connection between sports medicine and the latest events in sports, fantasy, and betting. Today's show is brought to you by the Health and Wellness Depot. Unlock the power of well-being. I'm Dr. Mikey B. With me, as always, Dr. MJB, the legend, and CJ, the sports enthusiast. What's going on, boys?
How we doing?
Doing well, man. How are you guys?
All right, a little odd today doing our show on a Sunday, not the norm, but due to celebrating our country's independence this upcoming week, we had to make a little bit of a change. So we're going to be talking to everyone today regarding. Hat looks good. So talking regarding the NFL defensive power player rankings. Last episode we did the offense. Today we'll be doing the defense. Now, as a reminder, this is not based off of fantasy sports. We are going to be addressing as we get closer and things become a lot more relevant in that regard. So this is based off of the 2023 season and these players' impact going into the 2024 season. Today we broke it down into a couple of different sections that will include things like defensive edge rusher, interior defensive line, linebackers, that's off-ball linebackers, not those such as the edge rushers that I mentioned already. That will include your Mike, Will, and Sam backers. We talk about cornerbacks, and then finally safeties. We decided to split up the DB group simply just because there really are two separate positions, and it's hard to make a top 5 power ranking. You just can't group them all into just one group. So with that being said, I want Dr. MJB to get us started. Mike, kick it off with our pass rushers. What are we thinking?
Okay. So before we get into it, I know last time we did the offensive power rankings, there were some crazy things that were mentioned. So I won't gear it towards any individuals. We'll kind of see what their thought process is. But hopefully they're sober this time. But I'll go pass rushers on my end. This is my list here. So my top 5 pass rushers going into this year, I have Myles Garrett, number 1, Micah Parsons, 2, TJ Watt, 3, Nick Bosa, 4, and Max Crosby, 5. As my honorable mention, I went ahead with Aiden Hutchinson. So I'll just briefly tell you guys why I chose each person and the positions that I have them in, and then I'll let one of you guys chime in. Myles Garrett, I think he's just phenomenal on both ends in terms of run defense and pass rushing. I think he is a combination of both with that rare size, speed, and just athletic ability. So I have him as 1. He was on the number 1 ranked defense, so he's a huge part of that. So I just thought it just made sense to have him there. Same things for Micah Parsons. The reason I was between Micah Parsons and TJ Watt being 2 or 3. I think what separated Micah Parsons for me is that I think his run defense is just a little bit better than TJ Watt's. So he gives me more of a complete package, right, in terms of someone who can do both, as TJ Watt is phenomenal at pass rushing. I just think that he's somewhat limited with his run defense. So I have him 3rd. Nick Bosa speaks for himself. He's a stud. I just think the other 3 guys just bring something more special than what he brings. And then Max Crosby, man, that guy, he is a manimal. He'll keep the pressure going at all times. He's relentless effort. So I like that. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is a guy who can easily become a top 3 pass rusher this year if he has a solid
Big
season
fan.
with the Lions.
Big fan.
But, I'm going to wait and see, how he continues to progress. He had a nice season last year, so we'll see if he builds off that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Aiden Hutchinson has a huge cap to grow into and, keep getting better. Top 3 is tough only because of the other talent that he's competing up against right now, like Micah Parsons, that's only because of that. But I think he is a really good pass rusher, and I agree, he will grow into keep getting better. My list is very similar. Basically got the same guys as you for the most part, just a little reorder. But I could reorder these guys on any given day based on a few factors here and there. So, I got the same Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons. But it is different in the a slight order change, but yeah, and like you said, Max Crosby he's a manimal. He'll keep coming after you nonstop. So really no big changes there. Mike, did you have any big changes on your top 5 pass rush list?
Yeah. So I'm trying to find here because I found it the other day, and it's killing me that I lost the graphic. I'm gonna pull up another one for you guys here, but let me see if I can just pull this up. But yeah, mine's similar. Okay, very similar, right? I have we have all the same guys. Okay, I think it's very, 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 very clear that these top 5 guys are the top 5 edge rushers in the league. Then it only get the nitty gritty, who's first, second, third, fourth, fifth. I think that is where we can have some discussion on, well, who's just a little bit better than the other. Honestly, the only thing that I think is clear cut for me is the number 1 guy. And I know that Myles Garrett, he won Defensive Player of the Year, and I think he's the clear cut number 2. JJ Watt posted all these different things, and that's what I had for today's show. And I don't know what I did with it, but he basically posted all the stats between
was it between TJ Watt and Aaron Donald?
Yeah, if you guys can see this graphic to the right here, ignore everything else. This is just a small graphic. I had a much, much better one for everyone that I can't find, but basically it was almost as if he was robbed of the Defensive Player of the Year. His numbers were just absolutely ridiculous, and so he was better. He was better than Myles Garrett in almost every single category statistically last season. So, and the other thing is when he's not on the field, the Steelers almost just don't win. When he's on the field, they win. And he does not get the exposure like that. You remember that year that Khalil Mack was on the Bears, and it was almost like you were scared to even go out there again on the field because Khalil Mack was going to wreak havoc. I have never seen that in our lifetime. I know Lawrence Taylor was the guy who did that all the time for the New York Giants, from what we've heard and from highlights. I believe that TJ Watt is the next closest thing to that Khalil Mack-esque type performance. He was unbelievable. And he's just been battling injuries, the torn pec and other things. So going into the 2024 season, I think the Steelers team is going to be a little bit better. They're doing some Fugazi things over there. I don't know what putting Justin Fields down there to return kicks and shit. I don't know.
Crazy.
But all that shit aside, okay, I think that if he stays healthy, we can see more of that. And I hope that you guys, the listeners, keep a bigger eye out on TJ Watt, because I'm telling you right now, if he can do what he did last year, I think and people acknowledge it a little bit more this year, there's no way that he'll undoubtedly be able to win Defensive Player of the Year, because he's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
I just want to say, just to add on that, you were comparing it to Myles Garrett. There was another graphic comparing it to Aaron Donald that I think JJ Watt put up during that MVP selection, and
surpassed him too.
I remember TJ Watt's his sack numbers and a bunch of other stats surpassed him. So he definitely was robbed that year. I think, like you mentioned, his injuries, I think that's the only reason he wouldn't make it number 1. It depends on how healthy he stays. But he's definitely got the talent to be number 1. I don't think that's really much of a question.
Yeah, I mean, and everything you guys are saying is spot on. I think you have to take into consideration too, when a guy can help a team become the number 1 ranked defense, like that's what plays into that factor. I do agree based on stats. I was like, yeah, he was robbed. I saw the same metrics too, where they're comparing TJ Watt stats to Myles Garrett. And I saw that too. But then when you take into consideration, they were on the best ranked defense, it's always going to kind of lean towards that one guy, right? Like that's in all sports. So I think that's kind of what happened with there. Plus, I mean, I watched some games and the only reason I went Myles Garrett is I watched some games and I'm just like, man, like you have to
he's
double.
A freak.
Like you have to double.
No, both of them are absolutely
for
insane.
Sure.
And then I will say this, Micah Parsons too. Like the only thing that happened with Micah, I watched so much Dallas Cowboys football as a Giants fan. There were some games where he just disappeared. And I don't know what happened there, but like there was games where he was the scariest man on the planet, and then there was other games where he disappeared, and you're like, where is he? Like,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
don't know what that was all about. Maybe I can have a Dallas Cowboy fan, if we have any listening,
Well,
chime
you
in on
know,
that.
it could be also credit to certain offenses learning how to double them and, you know,
Yeah,
trying to
no,
take
for
them out of
sure.
the game.
No,
So
for sure.
I just feel like you can run at him too, in my opinion, compared to the other two guys. And I'm curious to see your thoughts, Chris, because you had Micah 1, right? So I'm curious to see
yeah, I mean,
why you had him 1.
I can see what you're saying. I guess since we were going pass rusher, I wasn't really
Mhm.
factoring in the run game as
Okay.
much.
That's
I
fair.
was going strictly like I had him lean toward number 1 more for his speed. I think off
Okay.
the ball, he's like just so fast. He's in the backfield before some people can lift their head up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so not really factoring in much of the run game, more focused on just the pass rush aspect
Okay.
to
That's
why
fair.
he was really getting there at 1. Yeah.
That's fair. I some other things I wanted to mention, like Max Crosby, like he has the potential to, I mean, like I would take Max Crosby any day of the week. There's certain things that you can argue that he's got better than some of all these guys. Like I think he has the best motor in the league.
I was just gonna say consistency.
Yeah, his consistency, his motor, his
Yeah,
like.
he's consistent.
I don't think anyone's better than him on that. So like you can argue, he's, top whatever, top 3 maybe, 2, but and then Nick Bosa just got to stay healthy. The guy's an unbelievable athlete, unbelievable at the position. Just got to stay healthy. And
Yeah.
you mentioned Aiden Hutchinson. I just want to mention Josh Allen. I think the guy needs some respect. Guys, when they go down to Jacksonville, they produce. And with him, I feel like he's got a little bit of the Fred Taylor effect. Back in the day, Fred Taylor was one of the best running backs in the league. And guy like never made a Pro Bowl. Why? Because he was forgotten about, because he was always at the top of the leaderboard in rushing X, Y, and Z, but he's in Jacksonville. And the Jaguars just don't get as much attention as most other teams. And Josh Allen, he's one of those guys. He got a fat contract this offseason, and it was deserved. So, I'm gonna make a point to look at his production a little bit more this year and see where that goes.
I have a question for both of you before we get to a different position group. Khalil Mack, no one was thought to put him on their list. I mean, he had 17 sacks last year. Just was curious, like he wasn't even on.
I mean, Khalil Mack for me is one of my favorite defensive players. I mean, he's a little older. He's still got the talent. I'm not going to say he doesn't, but he's also another one with injuries. He's been battling injuries on and off the field.
It's important that you mentioned that, though, Chris, because that's what I literally based my list off of. I took age into a factor with a lot of this.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, like he's getting older, So, I'm not going to say he can't come out and have an incredible season. Of course, I think he's probably gonna. I think he's still great. But, for me, it's also the injuries. I mean, he lost a lot of time on the field. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what he was injured with, but he's been battling stuff on and off, constantly. So,
yeah.
To answer your question, from my perspective, I completely agree. I think when I looked at this, I looked at 2023 production going into 2024.
Correct.
So,
correct.
Khalil Mack, like PFF had him as the number 7th best pass rusher, and honestly, I got my honorary mention of and Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Allen. I put Khalil Mack still in my top 10.
Yeah.
Top 5, I just couldn't do it simply because the 17 sacks, that warrants that you can make an argument that goes top 5. But if I said to either of you, is he going to get 17 sacks next year going into 2024 season? That was my exact feeling. I was like, I don't think it's going to happen again this upcoming year.
No.
And that's why he's not in the top 5.
Dude, he hasn't had a double-digit sack season in 5 years. So like
that's exactly my point. He had a fantastic year last year. I just don't know. I'm not confident in his ability to replicate it and do it again. Listen, I would love to see him just ball out. Harbaugh's there, the Chargers. Like I feel like I would love to see it. I'm not going to gamble on it. You know what I mean? And so I don't see it.
Well, we know Chris doesn't like gambling.
Next.
moving forward. Chris, take us away on your interior defensive line.
All right, yeah, sure. So, let's see. All right, so for my top guys, I got Dexter Lawrence, shout out from the New York Giants, Quinn Williams, Chris Jones, Cameron Hayward, and Christian Wilkins. Listen, it's another list kind of where I want to say a little bit similar to the pass rushers where, I could move these guys around within my top 5 for various reasons. Dexter Lawrence, being a New York Giants fan, it's clear when he's not on the field what teams can do running right up the middle. Like, it's just way different. And, aside from the run, he plays a crucial role in the pass rush as well, just coming right up the middle and pressures on the quarterback. He's got I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but it's like constant pressures on quarterbacks or hits in previous seasons. But yeah, as far as the list goes, all of these guys have great production. I could have put Chris Jones higher. I thought about it between him and Quinn Williams. I thought about putting Chris Jones higher. But
why didn't you?
I could have.
Why didn't you? That's the question.
I could have. I want to see
over here.
I want to see Quinn Williams have a big year. I think that there was a lot of hype with the Jets and what happened, and they had a terrible year. So, if they have a good, like a good team, like all around, they're basically if their defense isn't on the field every down, I think that they'll also have some better production because they're gassed all the time. So
right.
I think it's a strong list, but again, they could be moved around. What do you think? I'm hearing that you're taking Chris Jones at the top here.
Yeah, like. Mike, can I step in here and plead my case here?
Please do.
Okay, so I'm gonna just throw mine up there as I explain this. Okay, because yes, we do have a lot of similarities. However, yes, I'm gonna need one after this conversation. So, we're okay. Aaron Donald. Okay, Aaron Donald, Chris Jones,
who
the league. Okay, let me go over there. Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, the league. Now, Aaron Donald's gone. Poof, right? Okay, he will be missed. I think Chris Jones is the clear-cut number 2. He would bridge the gap between everybody else. Now he's gone. Aaron Donald meaning. So I think Chris Jones is the clear number 1. I think he's been a staple for that pass rushing defensive lineman, interior 3 technique type deal. Other than Aaron Donald, it's been like, who are the best pass rushing 3 techniques in the league? Aaron Donald, Chris Jones. And Chris Jones has proven that he is consistent.
Yep.
And he has proven that that team and that defense is different without him.
Yep.
And he makes that big of a difference on the best team in the league. So I think he is the number 1. Now, I am a huge Dexter Lawrence fan. Liked him coming out of Clemson. Was fortunate enough to have the Giants get him. I think he's the number 2. I think everything you said about Dexter Lawrence, Christopher, is correct. So I'm not, everything you said about everybody is correct. The only thing is I think that Chris Jones is the guy. I'm surprised that Derek Brown didn't make your list. I know he's on. I know you got the Panther fan over there. He's in.
Man. Not even an honorable mention.
Yeah, bro. He didn't make nothing. He's going to be number 3. He's going to be number 3 or 4. Number 3 or 4 on MJB's list. I got him at number 4, and then I think Christian Wilkins, right? Big fan. I know he got paid that massive contract by the Raiders. Very excited to see him alongside of Max Crosby, who we just mentioned. I think that there was some question on the price of that contract and if it's going to be earned over there in Vegas. So let's see how he produces over there in Vegas. I think that he's the guy that can, as you got the aging Cameron Hayward, maybe he can slip into that number 5 spot over Cameron Hayward. I was going back and forth between the two of them, to be honest.
And you gotta Cameron
Hayward's consistency is unbelievable. despite his age. So I kept him just above.
And think about how Christian Wilkins is an amazing player. So put him aside. Max Crosby, amazing player. Now you put them side by side. I mean, it's like unstoppable. I mean, if they can both produce, it's like unstoppable. Because what are you going to do? Double both of them, and then
Right.
what happens to the rest of the line? So I think he can easily slip in for that reason. He's also alongside one of our top 5 pass rushers.
I got one for you. Ready? Before we get your response on this, MJB, just because he brought this tandem up. Okay, who are you going to take? You have the choice between taking the Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins combo, or the Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau combo. Because you know that
I'm a Giants fan,
Max
so
Crosby,
I'm sticking with the Giants.
but Max Crosby is we just said he is top 5 no matter what,
he's
best
better.
motor in the league. So you're going to put him above Brian Burns. So now you get a little bit less than Brian Burns, but then you also get a young Kayvon Thibodeau who's up and coming, in addition to your Dexter Lawrence, who, in your eyes, was the best. And like he's my number 2, you know. And then, or do you just stick with the Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby? I know. So Mike, what do you got?
Give me the combo you're asking for. You're asking the combo Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns versus. I
was throwing Thibodeau in there.
So then you're doing the whole D line.
Yeah, okay, so you got a trio.
All right, so then take him. All right, so take Thibodeau out. Take Thibodeau. Well, I was thinking that you're in Max Crosby. You're getting such a high level defensive end. You know that, like.
So basically, you're going with Crosby and Christian Wilkins.
So all right, Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, or Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence. I guess that works because Dex is like top 2.
Talk about a biased Giants fan.
No. I just saying fact.
Well, it actually sounds like you're picking Mike. You're going with the Raiders without the Thibodeau included.
Yeah,
you were
without Thibodeau included.
Yeah, I am because
I feel a lot less comfortable with picking the Giants. You add Thibodeau into that role because then I'm taking the Giants.
Yeah, if you're asking for the D line as a whole, the Giants for sure. But if you're asking just the combo, I know what I'm getting. I want to say that this is going to be the best Brian Burns version that we'll see, and I hate to say that as a Panthers fan, but I just think you guys have much more up front. But I still don't know. And I know what I'm getting with Christian Wilkinson and Max Crosby. So I would lean towards that. Now, if you're saying the D-line as a whole, for sure. But if we're talking strictly just combos, yeah, then I'd lean towards that combo.
Yeah, just to add, I'm just interested to know how both teams are going to use them, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the reason why I say that is because the Giants last season, we were running a 3-4 with a different defensive coordinator. Now we're going to run a 4-3 base with someone new. So, I mean, yeah, of course we can go back and forth with the players, but I'm just interested to see how it works out this season with how they're going to utilize like basically all those players between the Raiders and the Giants.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, with that said, moving on. I will start with our linebacker group. Before that,
I didn't do my interior D line.
It's because I think I just naturally just know that you're gonna have Derek Brown ranked higher than everyone else.
Yeah, it's honestly it's the same as yours.
Let's see it. What you got?
Yeah, I just chose to switch out Christian Wilkinson with I didn't put Cameron Hayward simply because of age, how we mentioned before. So these are guys that are young, some of them entering their prime. So
makes sense.
Yeah, and then I throw in Jalen Carter in there. Dude's just massive. So I think he potentially can continue to surge. But this, again, the only reason Cameron Hayward's not on this list is just strictly because of age. Otherwise, it's similar to you guys' list.
If Cameron Hayward had more of that type of amazing career, then kind of hasn't had that, as much production in the last, say, 2 years, but then had a good 2023, I wouldn't have had him in my list just like Khalil Mack. But because he's just been so consistent, that's the only reason why I kept him on. But I completely get it.
Well, it's funny is because it's 2021 and 2022 were phenomenal. And then he did have a dip in 2023. Like he went from 10 sacks to 2. So I'm not saying that's going to be a trend, but
it could be.
Yeah, it definitely
It could be.
So,
No, listen, I'm not disagreeing with you.
yeah. Chris, Derek Brown. What?
Yeah, that was I don't know what's going on there.
that was to me. That was that was a nice little to you, Mike. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, friend.
So, linebackers. You know, I think Fred Warner is phenomenal. I don't think anyone comes close to him at the Mike position currently playing in the league. When we grew up when we were younger, the middle linebacker position was like a staple.
Yeah.
Right. You had guys like Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, as a Giants fan, Antonio Pierce, like some unbelievable middle linebackers. Even the linebacker position as a whole, not including edge rushers. I'm talking off-ball linebackers, just awesome. And I just feel like that the position just hasn't been the same. When I watch Fred Warner play, it's nostalgic.
Yeah.
It's like I get to see what it used to be like when I watched football growing up, and to see these guys just dominate the field. I love watching him play. He's unbelievable. He, to me, is like in a class of his own. I think Roquan, he was great with the Bears on a terrible, terrible team. And the best thing that ever happened to him was going to the Ravens. Patrick Queen, he's a top 10 ranked interior linebacker, and they got rid of him because Roquan is just that elite. So for me, fantastic. Levante David and Demario Davis, what I like about them is that they're fast. Their ability to get the sideline to sideline, fantastic. You can drop them back in coverage, and it's not as much of a liability. You know what I mean? Like, you can keep these guys on the field on passing downs and not be concerned. So that was good. And then Matt Milano had a fantastic 2022 campaign before going down with season-ending injury over there with the Bills. So I'm a fan of him too. I think that coming back, he has potential to really solidify his spot in the top 5. With that being said, my honorable mention, Bobby Okereke, he's going to get overshadowed because he's on the New York Giants, and they've been just abysmal for years now. He was phenomenal last year. Tackling machine. With the new pieces that the Giants have going into 2024, if they can figure this out, he is going to continue to rise. He's a younger guy in the league. I think that he has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he had a huge impact on the season last year. He was super productive. If if the D line continues to improve the way it is, and then you have him in the next level, that's huge. And I also agree with you. I like what you said about Fred Warner. Kind of reminds you of like the Ray Lewis. It makes me think of like Patrick Willis being on the 49ers, like all those guys back in the day, where it's like they're like, you don't want to run at them. You're not going anywhere. You're trying to stay away from them on the field. And then, the next grouping of guys kind of tears off almost, like he's in a world of his own in a sense.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
and then it's like, all right, who's next in the league that's like the best, under him. I do like Levante David, Demario Davis, everything you said. So our lists are pretty much similar. I didn't put Matt Milano on my list basically because of the injury. I guess depends on how he comes back, but I mean, I'd imagine that he's going to be a force. So, he could have made it. But yeah, that's I pretty much agree with your list, and I like it.
Appreciate
it.
What's your list, Chris? I didn't see it pop up. Okay. Listen, I'm not arguing with anyone on this group because I share the same sentiments. I just don't think, like, when we're talking about linebackers and we're not including pass rushers, aside from Fred Warner, it's like you kind of just pick your preference at that point on the individual. It's not like concrete, these are the guys. So whichever one you guys feel strong.
What do you want? Because I had to look at this. I'm glad you said the way you said, because I feel the same way, and I had to say to myself, what do I want at this position with the off-ball linebacker? How am I creating my list based off of what factors, right? And
and that's a good question. I chose to look
so what did you choose?
I chose to look at linebackers who can play in space.
Yes.
So I coveted.
Yes. So did I.
I coveted guys who can tackle in space and guys who can cover. Because I feel like there's a lot of linebackers who can't cover. So since we weren't looking at pass rush ability per se, I wanted to see how well can they defend the run, can they play in space, and can they cover as linebackers. So this was my list here. First two guys, similar to you guys, Tyrell Dodson played for the Bills. Pro Football Focus had him top 85 percentile in both run defense and pass coverage. So I was like, oh, well, yeah, you got to include a guy like that. Levante David has been a stud for years. And I know it's a homer that I'm picking Frankie Louvu, but he's not on my team anymore. If I want to give you credit there, he's not on my team anymore, but he is phenomenal in space, dude. Phenomenal. And then I put Bobby Wagner as my honorable mention.
So question. So you think Bobby Wagner has I'm a big Bobby Wagner fan. I just because we talked about Khalil Mack going up in age, it's kind of like along the same lines. He's getting up there in age. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I'll be honest with you. I discredited age from this group because there's just not young guys that
consistency.
The consistency is not there.
Listen, man. Listen, the guys just weren't there, man. So I had to choose with what I know. Guys who I know, all right, yeah, they're older, but they can play. They've shown time and time that they're reliable. Some of the other guys that were mentioned who I might have thought about putting on the list show potential, but I can't just put you just strictly on potential. I need to see, that you performed as well. So I kept those guys off. So that's why I added Bobby Wagner. I know, he's up there in age and it goes against the initial thought process behind this, but for this group, I'll make an exception.
I got a comment. So the Bobby Wagner thing, listen. Yeah.
Honorable mention now. He's not my top 5, so
fine. Yeah. So it's cool. It's cool. Let's see. I think he's on the Commanders now, right?
Yeah.
So did I make that up, or is that legit?
No, I think he is. I know he played for Seahawks last season. I don't know if he's still on the side. I think he's on.
I'm going through Pro Football Focus's. He's on. Yeah, Mike. I'm going through Pro Football Focus's list just to find out, to confirm that he's on the Commanders, and I got to keep scrolling and scrolling. Oh wait, and who's beneath him? Frankie Louvu. So let's just take it easy. All right, that strawberry margarita is hitting a little too hard when making these decisions. You know what I mean? So I think. Listen, Frankie Louvu was good. I watched a lot of Panther football for my boy over here. It ain't necessarily enjoyable, but we do it because we're family. You know what I'm saying? Rough. But yes, he's good. I think Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner together with the Commanders, they got something going on there. Okay, I don't love it. I'm a Giants fan. I don't love it, but neither of those guys are going to be in my conversation for the top 5. One guy that I'm surprised didn't get even honorable mention from anyone. I just think it's because he had such a bad 2023 season. Was Tremaine Edmonds. Guy was unbelievable with the Bills. Gets that crazy contract from the Bears. First year over there with the Bears. Now, is it because the Bears are the Bears, and that's why his numbers weren't that great statistically, and that's why he fell off? I don't know, but I don't know. If the Bears are going to be better this year, I'm looking to see a big jump in Tremaine Edmonds.
Well, I mean, you said it. He has potential. He played well on the Bills. That one down year, I don't know. I don't know if that's what's to come or if that was just an outlier. So I had to put him on there. I had to keep him off of the list for that reason alone. I think he's, like you said, since we coveted playing in space, he does that, but I don't know. I don't know what to expect from him, honestly. He could easily get back into the top 5, honestly, based on, what the criteria we're looking for, but
I agree.
We'll have to wait and see.
Completely agree. All right. So, with that said, this is my other than edge rusher. Okay, edge rusher. I was looking forward to talking about because That's one of the most exciting positions in the game. However, as a wide receiver, former wide receiver, you exactly right. When we move to the defense side of the ball, DBs, that's where things get even a little more interesting. I think this is going to bring some really good conversation because in side talks, we actually were talking a lot about the, I don't want to say lack of talent, but man, it's just not what it used to be at the defensive back position. Some big names, so I think that we're going to vary a little bit. Did anyone in particular want to start this off, or you guys want me to just take it away?
Either way, I don't care.
Go ahead and take it away.
All right. So, Mikey B's top 5. So, listen. I know which one you're looking at, and you're saying, "Get the hell out of here." Chill, because Pro Football Focus actually had him ranked number 2. I know you're making fun of Trent McDuffie. Just wait and see, okay? So I already know it. I already know that's what he's. I know. Am I wrong?
At least he said it. What the hell? It's like Isaiah Pacheco. Anybody Chiefs? What the hell is that?
Chill.
I guess you had to find one on defense too, Chris. I guess you had to find one on defense.
No. Okay, listen.
Explain yourself.
Sauce Gardner, we all know he's the number 1. Let's move on. Trayvon Diggs, his 2022 campaign was phenomenal. Gets hurt last year. I think he's going to continue to play at that high level. I think has the potential, right? We're talking about potential. He's young. He comes back healthy this year. I think he has the potential to be the number 2 guy, period. Dude, Trent McDuffie. Now, Pro Football Focus has him as the number 2 ranked corner in the league. Okay. If you break this down, it's not that crazy, right? He was drafted in, I think, 2022 as the first round pick out of Washington, right? And okay. And he played a ton of slot corner. The Chiefs take him and move him right to slot corner. Everyone knows now, okay, that everyone's base defense is basically a nickel package anyway, which means that the slot corner has become arguably just as available as a boundary corner. And he is phenomenal. There is no one that comes even close to his production guarding the slot as anyone else in the league. So I think that he absolutely deserves a spot in the top 5. I want every single person listening, and especially you two, to pay attention to him this year when he's playing on the Chiefs. He is unbelievable. Now, I'm curious with L'Jarius Sneed now going over to the Titans to see what that production is going to be like. I'm sure because he did have help from a boundary corner that was very good, who's also one of my honorary mention cornerbacks, but he is phenomenal. Denzel Ward, this is a potential thing for me. I know he had a bit of a down year, but I just still think that the talent, the athleticism, he deserves a spot on this list
without question.
Yeah, and when I was looking through Pro Football Focus's statistics, because we use them as the Docs Huddle uses them as one of our normal go-tos, as they're one of the more reputable references. But he to me just has to be on this list. And then Pat Surtain, another fantastic corner. He's just he's on a shitty team. The Broncos they're just terrible. I mean, nothing feels good about saying anything regarding the Broncos, and hopefully, he finds a way to move on from that scenario, or the Broncos turn it around, because you hate to see just talent get wasted like that. Lastly, Jalen Ramsey. I want him in my top 5. Wait. Pro Football Focus has him as the number 6 corner in the league. He didn't make my top 5. I put him as an honorable mention because of injury and age. I believe that
MJB's gonna argue age, but he had Bobby Wagner. Continue.
Yeah. Well, no, he didn't get on the top 5 because of age and because of the injury.
I back up the Jalen Ramsey pick. I think Jalen Ramsey. He got hurt, So
I
he
think that he has
wasn't.
potential to go big this year.
Yeah, 100%. He's still a stud.
Go ahead,
I-
pick it apart.
No, I do like that. So for me personally, I do love where you have Pat Surtain. I think he has a lot of potential. People have him rated higher than that. I don't think so. I mean, I think where you have him is solid, in that lower echelon of the top 5. Like, I think that's a good pick. Trent McDuffie. I'm no comment, man. He's not.
Watch
He's not
him
top 5.
on NFL Red Zone this season. Everyone watch him. He is going to continue to produce.
No, and I agree with you. My thing is, I want a corner who, for all the things you mentioned, yes, I do think he's probably the best slot corner.
So you're
I
playing,
guess-
yeah. So you're saying from slot, it's hard to give top 5.
Yeah,
But why?
exactly.
But why? Who plays it?
Because-
Who plays in the slot?
Because I
Tyreek
want a guy. Yeah, but a
Who's
lot
my
of
I want a
number-
guy that can. I want a
Who's my
guy
number
that
one in
can.
the league?
that can do both. I want a guy that's interchangeable.
But
Yeah,
they're not.
Jamar
No
Chase
cor-
on the outside. I'm
no,
with that.
You're talking about corners that are interchangeable. No, but none of these guys you move from boundary to slot are going to produce the same that they do. They don't even move.
No, true.
They stay at the
true,
boundary
but-
for a boundary for a reason.
No, true.
So
But
I think that we need to
I'm
put more respect on the slot corner now because of the importance.
Yeah, but I'm more confident in one of those other guys having to move the slot than Trent McDuffie going on the outside. That's just based on because I haven't seen him do it. That's why I can't just say, "Oh yeah, top 5."
It's tough.
For
I get
me.
both sides of it. Like you could have a top 5 slot corners, you could have a top 5 regular. It's a tough. I get
It
it.
is.
It's not interchangeable. I get that. I'm gonna jump in here, throw my list up because I want to ask Mike a question based off of this list. So we have similar
And he's
guys.
the number one. Sorry, last thing. He was the top corner against the run. Number one corner in the league against the run. Proceed. Proceed.
So then I want to hear your list, your talk about Jair Alexander because I think Jair Alexander's a stud.
I don't hate it, Chris. I don't hate
Yeah,
it.
he's incredible. He's incredible.
Jair's
Dude, he's
beast.
incredible.
A
That's why
beast.
the fact that he's not on
beast.
your list is wild to me.
Jair's
He's so
a
good
beast.
that he had to pretend that he was the captain and go up there and make choices when he didn't even make captain.
Hey, not every great guy has to be a captain,
Listen, he's a stud. Nothing left to say.
Chris, I don't know what you must have
Listen,
had a
for
good
me-
weekend because you're spot on.
The big thing for me with him was injuries. He's had a relatively plagued,
I mean, I guess so, but if you want to
production
factor
recently, but-
injuries, Trayvon Diggs was hurt. So, I mean, I don't know. He's a stud. He's going to be on the field. He's going to be top 5.
I
There's
like
nothing
it,
more-
Chris.
nothing
I
more
like
to
it,
say
Chris.
about it.
I'll give you top 5, but 2.
Well, let's see if Trent McDuffie makes top 5
Yes, by the
over
numbers.
him, over Zaire.
Yeah, Jair didn't make my top 5. He would have been an honor. I'll put him in as another honorable mention. He's top 10 for sure. For sure.
So you think L'Jarius Sneed is better than Jair? Mike?
Yeah, that's interesting.
By the numbers, it's close. If I'm sitting here and I have to pick one, I'll probably take Jair because I feel more
Okay.
comfortable with what I'm getting.
Correct.
But that's just because there's not a big enough sample size on L'Jarius Sneed. And he was just put on a Titans team, which I don't know what is going on out there. They're making moves, a lot of moves. We will see how it transpires. I just, if I'm taking one, I'm going to take Jair because I know what I'm getting.
I didn't even know about this guy until they played the Dolphins, dude. Like I didn't know anything.
Who's
I'll be
Sneed?
honest with you. Yeah, I was like, who is this guy? Like and then he goes and balls that game, and then now, oh yeah,
In every
he's
other
in-
game.
I'm like, what?
Nice stud.
Crazy.
He's a
crazy.
stud.
I'll show you guys a real list right now.
Oh boy.
Oh, let's see it.
Look at my chops. Boom. Okay. The disrespect on Jalen Ramsey's name, it must stop. Okay. please. It
Oh,
must.
so you have him at number
stop.
2.
Jalen Ramsey
I
is
thought
a
you were
stud.
hating on him
You were
before.
hating on us putting him in there.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Oh,
McDuffie is, I was hating on
Chill,
Well, you
that.
made
chill.
it sound like you were hating against Jalen Ramsey completely
Yeah, I thought-
before.
Mm-mm.
You
Jalen
had
no,
Ramsey,
chemistry.
Jalen Ramsey's unbelievable.
he's a stud. He's a stud.
Yeah,
And
he's
and you gotta
incredible.
remember too, Miami's a team's pass rush and their corner's ability to cover go hand in hand. Miami's pass rush was decimated at some point during the season. Like, I think that potentially played into Jalen Ramsey's season. It's nothing against him, but you're in coverage longer. So like
That's
someone's
just-
bound
this
to-
is how the
someone's
game
bound to
works.
get open. Correct.
Yeah.
That's just how the
So,
game works.
I don't think it should, indicate how he performs as an individual. So I have him 2. Sauce obviously 1. I think Denzel Ward's a stud. Any receiver that plays him, they quietly just mention, he gives problems. Like, all the best receivers say that. Jair, man, Jair's my guy. I love Jair. I almost put him higher, Mike. I'll tell you that. I almost put him higher. I love Jair. I love when a cornerback and he's one that's interchangeable, and he oozes with confidence, man. There's not a thing that he thinks that he can't do, and I just love
I have
that.
nothing against him. If he stays healthy and has a very good year this year, I will find a way to put him in my top 5.
Yeah, which is fair.
Jalen, I want him at the number 2 spot. If
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey.
he should be at the number 2 spot. So I don't disagree with this at all. I just want to see him come back this year completely healthy. The knee is fine, and the secondary is not taking a beating because there's no pass rush.
Right.
If the
Right.
Dolphins can figure that out, I'm very excited to see what he can do.
Right. Yeah, what's funny? Real quick, I think you guys are okay with like the 5. Patrick Surtain, man,
I think he has a huge ceiling. Like, he's got such a big ceiling.
he does. But like, man, I'm looking at list and they have him so high. And I went back and like watched film on him again. I was like, let me see what they're seeing, and I see the potential. But to already say, top 2, top 3 corner, I don't know. I think
it's a potential thing. I think part of it is, like you said, goes hand in hand. Broncos are just bad.
Yeah, I would move
so bad.
I would move Jair Alexander into my top 5, and if I'm removing one person, it ain't Trent McDuffie. Okay,
who is it? Patrick for you?
Absolutely, for the exact reason that you just said. I went on that based off of potential. Maybe I got caught a little bit up in the hype. When I made my decision to put him at number 5, it was simply on the fact that, like, maybe because he's on such a bad team, I'm not seeing it as much as maybe other people are, and it's more biased. But like, I did the same. I went and I looked at a couple of guys.
Yeah,
he was one of them. I was watching, Leonard Davis, Mario Davis, a bunch of guys going into today's show. I could totally take him out and remove him for Jair.
Yeah,
there's one guy.
That's how I felt too. Like, I was like, he's not terrible, and I can see what they're going off of. But I'm like, man, these other 5 guys that I have on my list have proven it.
Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward's another. I'm a huge Denzel Ward fan, but it just comes down to, is he going to be healthy? That's really it. Like, he's another player with a lot of injuries.
True.
So,
and I hope he does.
Would Denzel Ward have been your honorable mention, Chris? Because you didn't.
He didn't even have him as honorable mention, right?
I didn't put any honorable mentions this round.
Okay.
But yeah, he would have made it. I mean, he's really entertaining. He's a lot of fun to watch. I like him. I mean, I think he's got the talent. But it's another thing, he's been hurt, and I believe both the last 2 seasons. So,
one thing I want to.
What about? I just want to mention something.
No, go ahead.
What are your thoughts on Marshawn Lattimore?
He almost made my top 5.
Okay.
I think you're not a big fan. I think he's really good. I mean,
used to be.
Actually,
I don't know. He just fell off for me.
Saints became irrelevant
in my
though.
top 5. Yeah.
What's that?
Saints,
true.
The Saints as a whole
Saints have
became
become irrelevant. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I want to just go back to. I just need to give Denzel Ward a little more credit on some other things, because I know, like, when we think of this position, we're thinking against the pass, but against the run matters. They need to set the edge like a pass rusher would have to do on the line. They have to set the edge too, keep everything inside, and no one, in my opinion, in the league, and I know what I said about Trent McDuffie leading in the run amongst corners, but no one plays the run on the outside boundary better, in my opinion, than Denzel Ward, which is hysterical because he doesn't have a massive frame. But
No.
when I watch him shed blocks, he dips under the block and defender and will just take down screen passes, this, that, so well. It's actually exciting to watch. Like when the ball's going to his side, I'm like, is he going to do something crazy? Because there's a good chance he might. It's really cool to watch.
I agree.
Yeah,
You know.
for sure.
All right. Well, our last topic. Let's finish this DB group and go into the safeties. So, MJB, you finished and closed us out. Let's go ahead and have you start it.
Perfect. There might be some hate towards my list, but that's all right. You know,
I can't wait.
I know what I'm doing. And here it goes. Boom. Now listen, I know I think the first two guys.
I don't hate it.
Don't hate it either.
Don't hate it. I don't hate it. I wanted Buda Baker in my top 5 and I didn't do it.
I might
don't
change
hate
the
it.
order. I might change the order, but I'm not hating you right now.
Okay.
But proceed.
Let's go.
Proceed.
So I think with Derwin James, the reason that I have him over Antoine Winfield, because I think Antoine Winfield's a stud. I think Derwin James can do anything on the football field. I think he can play in the box. I think he can be a rangy safety. He can play wherever you need him. So because of that versatility, I gave him the edge despite, having like injury history. Antoine Winfield's a ball hawk who will crush you. So I had him second. Buda Baker is my favorite safety in the league.
Most exciting. I think it's exciting to watch.
He has no regard for his body, and
I was say and hardest hitter.
And I think he thinks that he's 6'4", 230 when he's actually like 5'8", 180, 85. Like it's crazy. So I get excited watching Buda Baker play. Jevon Holland, you can say what you want out of everybody else. I think he's probably the most rangiest safety. I think his coverage ability back then, a free safety, is just phenomenal, dude. And then Kyle Hamilton, man, listen, he's 5 now. Don't be surprised when we revisit this conversation. He's 1 or 2. I think he's just a poor man.
Talk about Kyle Hamilton?
Yeah. He's just a stud. I was gonna say something, but I disregard that. But yeah, he's just a stud, dude. All-time talent. And Minkah Fitzpatrick was in my honorable mention. So was Jesse Bates. I think with Jesse, I just is not sold with him as far as like tackling and things like that. Like he can cover, but I want a all-around safety. And then Minkah, the inconsistency bothered me. So that's my top 5. I'm glad you guys don't hate it.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate it. I'm gonna jump in here. So Buda Baker, I think most exciting player to watch as a safety. I'll maybe argue that with Derwin James because I'm a huge Derwin James fan. But just how he throws his body around is just
it's crazy. It's wild, man.
Insane. So the only difference for me, my honorary mention would definitely be Buda Baker. I know I didn't really go around with them this time. I did include Micah Hyde. Other than that, our list I think is fairly similar.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit more acknowledgement towards Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think that he is like for the Steelers, he makes their secondary different night and day. And before he was on the Steelers, if you recall, he was on the Dolphins and he was the same player. Yeah. So he went from one place to the other and he brings a huge impact to the whole secondary. So I think that he's another player to look out for. I know the Steelers have been a little iffy, but I like the list, and pretty much the same one. Well, similar at least.
Yeah. Listen, Micah, great safety. I if he's going to make the top 5, I'd put him at 5. Yeah. I would not have him above that. He's not in mine, but everyone else that you mentioned, I agree. I think it's interesting that you both put Derwin as the number 1. He's obviously in my top 5. So 4. Now listen. It's only because of injury.
I was gonna say that would be my argument.
Only because of injury. Like you are
player.
less likely to have him for 16 games in a season than you are. And to me,
the
the best ability is availability. And when he's lacking the most important ability on the football field, I couldn't put him at the number 1 spot or the number 2 spot or even the number 3 spot. I would tell it was literally a toss-up between him and Minka at number 3. And I just put Minka in there because of his consistency, exactly what Christopher said. Antoine Winfield, he is, again, I have a little bit more nostalgia with him, right? Like when we used to watch like Ed Reed and guys like that, like true ball hawks that like commanded the entire like defensive backfield. I don't see that as much anymore at the single high free safety position, just because the way the game is played, it's a little different. I still get that with him, and he can still hit. Like he's just so awesome. I love watching him play. Kyle Hamilton. I got
fan.
Yeah, dude.
Huge fan.
He was the biggest sure thing coming out of college.
Yeah.
That the year he was drafted, and he just didn't go as high as he should have, simply because of the position.
Mm-hmm.
If he wasn't a safety, but he was a corner, he would have been the number 1 overall pick. Like, so with what he is, and you're seeing that to come into fruition with the Ravens. So he's unbelievable. I think he's only gonna be better. Like, I cannot wait to watch him play with the Ravens this year. And then Javon Holland. Love having him on the Dolphins. Right? We all get to watch him play for our Dolphins. He's so much fun to watch. And yeah, he led the league in forced fumbles.
Yeah.
So he gets the Mikey B Thumper Award, and then Buddha, he's my honorable mention. I couldn't write honorable mention because of character limit, but there you go. That's my whole list. And when doing this, guys like Micah, they just couldn't make my list. I just didn't find a spot for them.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's a good list. I mean, definitely better than Trent McDuffie list. But no, all I wanted to say was Kyle Hamilton. The more we do these lists, the more it kind of pops out to me that the Ravens should win the Super Bowl. Like almost every list, we keep on seeing like how many more guys on their depth chart are making top 5 in different categories.
And they don't lose many guys.
Pretty interesting.
And they keep on adding great assets in the draft. I mean, every year their draft is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you.
Listen, I get goosebumps when I watch Kyle Hamilton, Derwin James, and Buda Baker. Man, those guys. It's like, man, because they just play so relentlessly and with so much effort. It's like, no, I know that I'm better than everyone else on the field, and I'm going to show it. Like it's crazy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The only position, honestly, that I don't get too excited about watching nowadays was the linebacker position that we mentioned, the off linebackers, and I mean Fred Warner for sure, but the other guys, it's like, okay, like it's not as exciting as it used to be. That's all.
Yeah.
Correct.
I agree.
Correct.
Yeah,
they're pertinent to the game, but you're not going to show up on ESPN top 10.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's because too, they don't get a lot of opportunities. Remember, we mentioned it, Mike, back in the days when we used to watch offenses, they would take shots more often. It was more of a running league, so they're allowed to come downhill and make bigger tackles. I don't know if these linebackers are not getting those opportunities because it's a short to mid game in terms
completely
of passing.
Agree.
So like,
I know
it's
100%.
It takes the excitement out for them. So it's not their fault. It's just kind of how the game has changed.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of base defenses
game has
are playing
changed.
nickel.
Yeah,
nickel where they have 3 corners on, and it's different.
That's a conversation for another show. But like what we had said in the past, like we've had these conversations off air many, many times. Like football, it's all of our favorite sport. We love it to death. The game is not what it used to be.
Correct.
And so like, and we're biased because we have our own opinions based on, but and again, this is for topic for another show. The game used to be better. Like how they played with running the ball more, take bigger shots. It just made for a much more exciting game versus, everything is quick, dink and dunk, things like that. Like it. So the defense has to change how they operate.
Different. It's just different. I think it just comes down to
it's different.
So
like you're not going to see
athleticism. Yeah.
You're not going to see the same type of plays being made at those positions. It's impossible because they're played differently.
Mm-hmm.
So, Well, with that being said, we want to thank everyone for tuning in to today's show on the NFL Defensive Player Power Rankings. I want to remind everyone that today's show is brought to you by the Health and Wellness Depot. Unlock the power of well-being. For CJ, the sports enthusiast, Dr. MJB, the legend, I'm Dr. Mikey B. This is the Doc Huddle. Thanks again for tuning in.